Hey everybody, Real with Wes, day 4 coming at you here talking about when the pressure's on. And we'll just jump straight into it. Encourage you. One of the most obvious mindsets is going to happen when the pressure gets really high is you're going to want to quit. That's what it really is. A big one. I without fail, I have had to face the temptation to quit and want to give up. And here's the reason why. Because when the pressure gets on, it starts to increase pain. Emotional pain, maybe it may be mental pain, it may be in the form of stress. It could cause you physical pain, it could cause you financial pain. And our natural thing is get it off. I don't want the pain. And sometimes the quickest option is to quit. And that's what the enemy wants in those moments. That is what the situation wants, for you to quit. James talks about that. When your faith is tested, you should consider it a joy. Instead of why is it a joy? Well, there's a joy, there's a triumph, there's a strength, there's a accomplishment that comes when you don't quit. You push on through it. I don't mean like self-will push through it. Man, the grace of God pushes you through it in the moment. But it's easy to want to jump. And here's what it is. Many a times what happens is it's not playing out like we want or like what we thought or what we expected. In that moment when you hit that, you gotta recognize a few things. First of all, you're not God, you're not all-knowing. So the way the situation is playing out may be the fact God is playing out the way God needs it to play out, and we're just not at the end result, by the way. Or it is playing out the way God wants it to, and what you had isn't quite lined up with Him, and sometimes we got to make that shift. Now, when we make that shift, a lot of times, all of a sudden we settle in, we come back in, we find that grace and that lane to go in. Sometimes problems happen. It is a hurdle. It is a opposition. And it's not going out, and you gotta work through it. You gotta use your wisdom of how to navigate it, overcome the situation. It means you got to put up a little resistance, a little fight. And sometimes we got to pivot and go a completely different direction. Sometimes it makes that willingness to let go of something so you can see what God is really doing. Or maybe it may be the end of the season's reason you got to let go. Maybe other people didn't play their part and it just crashed, and God has to restore it, and God has to bring something new around out of us what's time. What is ultimately, though, when you get in that position of wanting to quit, it's not quitting. It's taking that pause and saying, God, where do we go? Staying flexible. Staying sensitive, staying in that moment to pivot, staying in that moment to shift, listening for the wisdom to overcome it. But the thing is, don't quit. Don't just walk away. It's simply saying, don't just throw up your hands in frustration. I know it may hurt. I know it may be full of pressure, but stick with it. Because when you make that shift and say, God, where you at? God, I give you the care of this. I give you the fear of it over to you. And I choose to walk in the Spirit. I choose to not walk in my self-centeredness. I choose to get out of my fear for a moment. I choose to get out from under the pressure for a moment. How do I do that? By giving the care of it over to God. Because really that pressure that's trying to make you quit is you worrying about it. Is you're afraid of what's going to happen to you. And you have to say, God, you love me. I trust you, and I know you're going to see me through this because I know you love me. So where do we go? And just start getting sensitive and listening is what that moment, and the wisdom and the know what to do next, because the unknown is what's causing a lot of pressure to quit, where it's like, I just don't know what to do and there's no answer. Well, don't stick in that for a moment. Don't just run from it. Embrace God in that moment. Sit in the moment and allow God to give you the wisdom, because when that wisdom comes, you're going to know what the next thing to do is, and boom, you're going to jump right in there. But sometimes you'll get in those patterns where you want to jump, and it's like you have to let it sit for a second. Let it play out for a second. Wait on God for a second. Even when the pressure's on, be patient and sit there and wait for Him. And He's going to drop it in you. He's going to speak it into you. And all of a sudden, man, when you hear that, there's faith. And you're re-engaged, and you're reconnected, and you got the courage you need, and the strength you need, and the grace is there behind it. And all those things kick in. So when you hit those spots, don't quit. Just know maybe a holding pattern, maybe a pivot, maybe a shift, maybe a wisdom, maybe it's nothing you need to do, but rest and know God is doing it. But whatever it is, it's not quitting. It's holding on to Him. What are we not quitting on? Let me leave you the last part. I'm going a little long. What are we not quitting on? We're not quitting on Him. That's what it is. You think quitting on the situation and quitting on people is not bad. Don't quit on Him, because that's what will see you through. All right, that's all I got for you. Catch you tomorrow.